Okay, so now I've finished my outer by just clipping that back so that that seam is nice and neat, and I've also cut the whole thing back and zigzagged around that so that's nice and neat. Now I've made a lining which I'm going to drop inside here, matching up the centre back and then all of the quarter marks. So that's why you do the quarter mark at the top and the bottom of the band, because that way you get the that nice, sitting nice and evenly. And put as many pins as you need. My band on the outside is quite inflexible, but the band on the inside is a bit flippery and moves about a bit. But remember, anything that's in between the outer and the inner is your secret, so don't even worry if it's not immaculately done, because the important thing is that it looks nice from the right side, and the wrong side, it doesn't matter so much. See how that's a bit loose there? So that's because the lining fabric can stretch, but the outer fabric can't. So you might need to put an extra few pins in just to make that sit nicely. And when you've got everything sitting properly, see that again is quite loose, and just put an extra pin. And if it gathers up or does anything naughty, I think it's really important that it just you might have a little bit of a pleat here and there where the lining is not quite sitting nicely, but the more pins you put in, the smaller the pleats and the harder they are to see. So already you kind of get a sense of what it's going to look like inside. Pretty damn nice. Now I'm going to put the lining on the underside because the feed dogs tend to pull that along a bit, and what that does is it reduces the puckering a little bit. So make sure the edges are together. Go inside your centimetre this time, not the whole centimetre, because we don't want to see this stitch later on. And we're just going to do a little stitch that's going to keep everything together for now until we get the Petersham in. And now when you're measuring the Petersham this time, instead of measuring the measurement with ease, which you've done previously, you do your exact head measurement. So whatever you made the hat for, you do your measurement, plus you do 2 centimetres. Oh, you don't do 2, you do actually 4, I beg your pardon. So 2 centimetres at each end adds up to 4. See, that's being a bit naughty there, but I think I'll just run over it and hope for the best. So chuffing around. So just keep an eye on what's going on underneath. That's good enough. And then we're back to the beginning. So at this stage, you've got something that's going to resemble your beret. So I've cut my Petersham. I'm going to pin it closed. Now, if you're in any doubt about the size, you might try that on to the person it's intended for, whether it's yourself or whoever. And if I pull that nice and smooth and just squeeze that at that end, then that gives me a little crease that's equivalent to a quarter mark. Then I'm going to put that at the centre back, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm just going to get that there and then squeeze that there, and then another little squeeze there. So I've got my quarter marks on my Petersham. So again, starting at the centre back, put the pleat at the centre back with the wrong side of this to the right side of this. Now, according to our pattern, we have 1 centimetre there. So we just do it 1 centimetre or thereabouts from the edge, and pinning the lining and the outer together. Now there's my notch and there's my quarter mark, my pleat, my little fold. So I can just pin that together. Now that that is bringing it in, which is fantastic because it means it's going to fit nicely when I when I turn that up inside. So this is a good sign. Little pleat there. Not a pleat, what am I doing? I'm just pulling it in to fit. And this is the really rewarding part because you can see what your hat's going to look like. Now, the other thing that I need to just warn you about is because the lining is soft and it wants to come out, what we're going to have to do is we're going to just put a couple of pins up and out here just to stop the lining from dropping into the way of the sewing machine. And you just don't want that to drop down. I know it's happened to me in the past and it's really annoying. So just however many pins that you need to make sure that your lining stays in the right place. Can you see that? I hope so. So now it's all sitting right inside. Now, more pins please, Serena. So a couple more there. And then we're going to just put between each thing and just keep an eye on the band. Between each of those pins, I'm going to split that fullness and drop another pin in there. Just make sure it stays the same distance from the edge. Stealing pins from elsewhere. Now, I think I'll get away with just one extra pin between. Now here, it's quite a bit of bulk. So we just got to make sure that that splits and then pin that in. Another pin. So we can't change the size of the Petersham now because Petersham goes to the head and we can't change the size of the head. Now, if you find that it fits really well in one section but or is a bit loose in one section and a bit tight in another, then you can redistribute. It might be to do with where you put your notches, but otherwise it's pretty much got to stay as you had it. Now, in she goes to the sewing machine. Drop that down. Put the little groove just so that the edge of the ribbon goes right to that little corner in the ski, so to speak. And now go over your overlap bit. And if you can make that sit smooth as it goes through, then you can eliminate any bunching as you go. And the other thing, the final thing that you'll need to do with this is to get your iron out and press the fold so that the Petersham goes up into the right place. So take your pins out as you go. And also just really make sure that that band is the same width all the way along. Now there is one other thing that you can do if you want to, and that is you can, once you've pressed it, you can actually do a top stitch line with that, holding that whole fold thing turned up, just so that it stays that way and the ribbon isn't inclined to drop out, because that can sometimes happen. Okay, so the most important thing is that when your fabric is inclined to bunch, just really make it sit nice and flat as it goes through, and split the bunches, split the bunches, split the bunches, and then eventually they should run smooth. Okay, so now we're going to take the pins out. And around about now, you're going to iron that all in. And I'm not going to do that for you right now, but I'll pin that up just to give you a sense of how it's going to look when it's done. So that's all just got to be really folded, and get rid of all the little stray threads and bits and pieces. That's your final check, so to speak. Okay. So this is starting to look like, and I think I just want to iron this. I don't think I want another top stitch line around there because it's sitting just a nice neat little band. Oopsie doopsie, doesn't want to talk to me. So there you go. And that, my dears, is your finished beret. Looking pretty damn good. Thank you.